The mic is coming through
Yeah,
nicely.
yeah, you're perfect.
The mic is coming through
Yeah,
nicely.
yeah, you're perfect. Well, not perfect. Listen, that's a hard task, but very close. So today we have Beleevens on again, talking about the Root Network. We're going to go over things coming out from Futureverse in general and just give some open thoughts to things, but we'll kick off with talking about what he's doing with the Root Blocks Generative Art Mint. We are now through two different sets of them. The first one was the roots and the display, and now we have a lot more of a visual impact. So I guess Beleevens, run us through what you've been working on within the series.
First, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure and glad to be here again. So in the series Root Blocks, it's about generative art. I have been playing with like turning data into visualizations or art for like more than 10 years. Posted a thread about that, and have been playing with the framework that also Chromie Squiggle is using, like Snowfro in art blocks. It's called P5JS. And I've been using that like the predecessor, which is called processing, also like since more than 10 years. So when I saw like the generative art overall, I played around with it, but it was never like the right moment. But now I felt like it is, because we used mint transaction hashes from the root network, and following up on, like, originally it came from launching Gambai, but having Gambai as a tool which I wanted to offer for free. But at the same time, of course, we need some funds to operate. And so I decided, okay, how can I give something to the community that is also cool, like something they can buy and they can own, and it's like mesmerizing in this drop now. But yeah, and generate some funds through that. And then I thought, okay, generative art might be just the perfect thing to do.
So you brought art blocks up in there, and I think for people that have been in the NFT space for a while, you might be quite familiar with that platform. But for generative art as a whole, we've seen various artists come through. Everyone's trying to make a name for themselves. But can you talk just generally, I guess, about generative art and how you've seen it kind of evolved over time and why it was something that you particularly wanted to get into?
Yeah, good question. So the in general, generative art like has different aspects to it, and I would say, like, first, whenever I mention it, I always say it's not AI. It's not like generative AI. Sometimes people get this confused if they're not too deep in the matter. What happens with generative art or creative coding, like art blocks and our drop, is there is a mint, and this mint has a transaction hash. And this transaction hash can be used to map onto the artwork. So that means the artist comes up with a general idea of what they want to depict. So in the first one, it was the physical matters, the trees, roots. In the second one, it's the sound waves, visualized sound waves, basically. And so you define parameters and the environment. And then, for example, if you take the color palette, it is 5 different color palettes in the drop, and we take a part of the hash, and that part is then like let's say the maximum number in theory would be from 0 to 100. It's not, because it's like a hexadecimal, but let's assume it's 0 to 100. If the number from that hash is 0 to 20, it's one color palette. If it's from 21 to 40, it's another color palette. And this way we guarantee a somewhat um a distribution along like all these color palettes, because the mint hash is randomly generated for the most part, especially as we take the mint hash and turn it into another hash, but it is reproducible. So in theory, if you wanted to reproduce your artwork, you could take the mint hash, and could reproduce your artwork just by using our code.
There's people that are probably lost in what you just said. So if I was going to say, Believens, listen, I'm really passionate after I've seen what you're doing. I want to get into generative art myself. Would I have the skill set to do so, or would I need to learn a little bit more about a certain language, or how would that be answered?
So if you want to do your own code, yes, there's some coding involved. So it is based on mostly like JavaScript, so like the web scripting language. And then we can yeah, so it's definitely need some coding, unless there was a tool that allowed you to map certain things on an artwork. But yeah, I think like it's also for Chromie Squiggles, like in theory, you can like go on the site, go onto the page, and they have a viewer, and that viewer is also live code. Like also on our website, when you see the animation, it's live code. It's not a video. It's not a GIF. It is code live rendered.
With all these avatars and AI characters coming out, have you thought about doing everything you're doing with have you thought about with what you're building with Craft Clarity? You have Gambai Insights, you have root blocks. Have you thought about using one of these AI agents at all? Or are you sticking with just yourself? Because this is something that we keep seeing and everybody's pushing, oh, this AI feature, but I don't really know how to read it from that perspective. But you're in a place where you have all these things. And back in the day, well, I mean, even recently with Pudgy Penguins, we used to see all these different companies and individuals changing up to have like a penguin represent their brand. And obviously, this is a little bit different. Maybe you're a huge Pudgy Penguin fan as well. But have you thought about integrating any of these kind of like AI characters to represent what you're building, or do you want to keep it human only?
I mean, for now, it's human only, but I could definitely imagine a future where, let's say, we build up an autonomous generative artist AI agent that writes code that generates the art, or like sets like the basically the writes the code. So in theory, that's possible. And we have been doing some AI stuff already in at Craft Clarity for other ventures. And so we do have the ability to yeah, build something in that space. For now, it's just pure old human craft. But yeah, it is possible to implement it, and I'm not never say never. Yeah.
Never say never. Okay, gotcha. It's a Justin Bieber line, Canadian, phenomenal. When you guys are building out these generative pieces, one thing I notice is it always seems like it's a very closely timed mint of like a week window to be able to mint. How come you've chosen that? And for anybody that mint or if anybody that would be interested in the first, if they missed it, how could they purchase it? Is it only available on secondary now? And for the one right now, what does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah, good point. It is, I would say we will put up the current mint to a vote if we should keep it open. The initial thought, so for the first mint was open for 2 weeks, and we ended up at about like 311, I think, of generative art pieces. And in theory, we could keep it open. The thought behind closing it is to give it also like some scarcity of like, uh, if you were there, you have minted, and you will be rewarded because now maybe the first drop will be the rarest of all drops, and to get the final drop, you will need a full set of six. So from the first six drops, because overall there will be seven. Um, but I am open, as we did for the current drop. I asked several community polls and asked the community, okay, do you want like what you see here in the background? Like these are squares, right? And I asked like, do you want only the ellipses, or do you also want the squares? And the squares, should they be like rotated? And so we asked a range of questions, and through a um, poll on X, we decided, or the community decided, on certain decisions for the artwork. And as such, I would be open to put more polls up and say, okay, should we keep it open like until it's minted out? Should we keep it open for 2 weeks? Because I have gotten several people asking me, hey, can we keep it open until the next rewards drop, be it staking, be it quests, be it whatever. And yeah, in general, I'm open to extend it, and I will put up a poll.
So how does that work when you're in an ecosystem? And this is very, very specific. If you're watching this and you're not really in like the Futureverse community, it might be a little bit unfamiliar, but the way that it works is there's quests within the Futureverse ecosystem where there's root rewards for completing these quests, and it's based off of someone having a future score. And we've noticed for a lot of mints and things in general is it does feel like it's suddenly a liquidity injection event for the community where then, there's a little bit to spend, if you will. And it feels like most ecosystems don't really have that situation. And so for yourself, as you're building on this network and you're one of the very first public builders on the network, I mean, one, have you found that to be a problem? Is it challenging at all? Do you have any thoughts on how this ecosystem is arguably kind of one in a million, where most don't have the same implications of things like the quest system?
Yeah, that's a good point. On the quest system, I mean, it's a good thing they exist, because then like people have new tokens to spend, and they can either like stake it, or they sell it, or they reinvest into NFTs or new projects and new builders. It is definitely unique, but I see it more as a positive thing, to have that, even though like timing it is not always easy. And then on the other part, um being one of the first, like, it's good because you can experiment, and you can like try out things. Sometimes it's a challenge, because the documentation, like they're building it out, right? So for building on the root network, it already has gotten much better, like since first projects. But it is, yeah, they're improving it over time. And so sometimes there's things where which are challenging to work with it, but mostly it's good, and the support is good, and the team is like also very responsive and communicative on that part.
So you originally started with the Gambai Insights, which, if anybody's not familiar, it's a tool that allowed you to be able to match up prisms or give you more strict data on what the NFT assets you held were, because there wasn't really much tooling out there. Now, with the Third Kingdom entering this next phase of going to be team challenges, is there any kind of insight do you think that you're going to be building to help facilitate that in any sort of way? Do you think that there's going to be even a realm to do that, or do you think that's going to get more updated when episode 2 launches?
Yeah, I mean, anyone who noticed, or who has interacted with the tool, might have seen that there hasn't been an update after the game launched. And instead I built this free spreadsheet which people can use to optimize like how they build in the game. Because I felt in the end I could have built a platform that allowed like the same things, but a spreadsheet gives people much more flexibility to adapt, and like to make it their own, and like change it around to their needs, because some people might have other needs. So I decided, let's leave it with a spreadsheet. And Gambai Insights, it at some point we will resume it. For now, we're basically waiting for like data oracles, which might be silo involved, to have to have like better in-game access, like data to in-game stats. Currently, that's not possible, and then I figured, okay, let's focus on other things for now. But yeah, we intend to keep it up, and when it makes sense, to keep building it out.
On this series we've been doing, talking with different builders, we talked with Shen the other day, and he went in about how Aaron's vision, after connecting with Brad Garlinghouse and saying, there's a big story here, and it seems that we're starting to see that develop. And when you go to the Root Network site, I don't know how long it's been there, but I noticed that there's a ticker on the bottom of the screen highlighting different partnerships from Warner Brothers to Ready Player One, which we know, Warner Music Group, Ripple, Tencent as well was highlighted that we haven't seen in a while. And it feels like there is a lot of things kind of coming to a head on that front. I'm just kind of curious, as we're heading into 2025 here, do you have any thoughts on the Root Network as someone who's a builder and as someone that's been watching this ecosystem more closely than others?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward because we got so much going on, and I think like this year could finally be the year where it's actually let's say where we reap the rewards, not only like from tokens, of course, which people will be hopefully happy about the distribution, but also from like experiences, seeing AI prominently featured, also with the change from ASM to Think, with agents coming up from Shen and all that. It feels like this is the year where we actually get to play things, build things, like for anyone, go into these worlds. And so yeah, I think like it's also a good time to start building. As we've seen like with TRN Labs, the announcement, that's exciting. And to see like in general more effort also towards the builders community. Like last November, we were in Paris attending the developer days, Futureverse developer days, and so I think like it's a good time to build and a good time to be here, because there will be things to play and experience.
Well, you're somebody that's actively out there and knowing that you have the skill set to build something. Has there been anything else that you're like, hey, I could get into this? And obviously, you're kind of spread across a whole bunch of different things, but is there anything more recently you've thought, like, oh, I could theoretically build out a tool for this? Or has your perspective on what you want to do kind of as a builder changed?
Yeah, I would say there's certainly different. Like I'm a person who is lots of ideas, and I have to, like go and focus the energy and the time on like now, for example, on the generative art. But I am definitely very intrigued by the idea of having a world of agents, like an actual virtual world. Yesterday I attended the from Emergence, the open builder space, and they were talking about AI agents, and if there was like a virtual world. I've been uh thinking about that for, I don't know, 5 years, because 5 years ago I entered for a grant to make NPCs talk intelligently to people. I didn't get it because it was too far-fetched. But that was before blockchain, that was before ChatGPT, that was before everything we have today. And today it seems very reasonable and feasible to have agents and NPCs going through worlds, building the worlds. And yeah, I would love to explore more in that area, to see, okay, can we send agents and they build a world?
When you mentioned the TRN Labs a moment ago, it made me kind of stop and ponder. It feels odd, I guess would be like my first reaction to it, because you see who they're following, and it's people that are associated with Futureverse in some kind of capacity on a partnership. But when you call it like the Root Network Labs, it feels like something that would specifically come out of the people who created the Root Network, and it seems like there's connections for it. But I'm curious if you could like explain more of your thoughts on what you think TRN Labs is going to do and provide. There was like a huge document that went over all of this, but I think we look at these different announcements, and sometimes I'm not really sure how to react to it.
Yeah. So maybe I would say it more from a perspective what I wish it does, right? Or what I would hope it will be able to achieve. Um, I think it would be good, like as builders. Currently, there is not like this one place. Like there is the Root Network Discord, but that's mostly dead, to be honest. Like also there is a builder central chat, but like not much is going on. But we know there is people building on the root network, right? So it should give like this, on one hand, the virtual hub where everyone can get together, I would hope that they create that space. And at the same time, they have been ramping up the offline events to educate developers, and to give them the material to build on it. And so overall, I hope TRN Labs gives like the environment where builders want to go, can get the education, can get the exchange with other builders, and by that can get like an easier start on the network. That's my main hope for for TRN Labs. Yeah.
Nice. I like that perspective. And it does seem like a lot of things are happening at quick speeds, and having those builders be supported in various ways, I think, is going to be very much needed. So for you, we have root blocks, we have the other things that you're working on. What are things that people need to know about if they're interested in purchasing a root block, where to go for that? If they're wanting to find out these other toolings, where do they go for that as well?
Yeah, so of course, people are always welcome to just DM me personally. But we have the Twitter on Rootblocks. It's just saying Rootblocks. The website is rootblocks.xyz. So that's where you can find the information. The current mint is linked there. So current mint is called Waveforms. And yeah, inspired by the sound patterns, where which create really mesmerizing artworks. And it's actually, if you haven't seen it, it's inspired by a like putting sound frequencies onto a metal plate, and on that metal plate is sand. And because of the way the sound frequencies hit the metal plate, the sand navigates towards these lines. I shared a video, and I found it always like super fascinating that sound frequencies, depending on the frequency, can trigger that response. Yeah, that's where you can on rootblocks.xyz, and our agency account, where we post also sometimes things we do, like for example the open sourced Power App application that we built for the Futureverse Developer Days, is Craft Clarity. So Craft Clarity on Twitter. I think it's with an underscore because the other account was reserved. So yeah, that's the three most important places. My Twitter, oh, X, excuse me, the Rootblocks account, and the Crash Clarity account. I am looking forward to the next months, and looking forward also to announce some more things that we are building, and also to get like more of the root blocks into people's hands, because yeah, the this job, lots of love from the community. Also want to say thank you for everyone who's supporting, who minted. We are shipping like every day. We will ship some more features, or at least in the coming days, we already implemented to download the animation, a better way to share the post. So there will be, or to share the artwork. So yeah, we're always constantly looking forward, looking for ways to improve the experience, and to improve like this art collector's experience. We do the same activation like in the first drop. So if you get 3 of this drop, you get a free one in the next, and it's for every set. So if you have like 6, you get 2 free ones the next one. If you have 9, you get 3 ones. So it scales. And so if you I saw several people, like some had like 5 in the first drop, and so they just miss out on 2 free ones in the second, or they have 2 and they just miss out on a free one in the third, in this one. So yeah, if you're maybe one of these persons, make sure to have a multiple of 3, because that will give you free NFTs in the next one.